Hi everyone, I'm here to talk to you about using sources. I've noticed in a lot of your essays that I've been reading that a lot of you are forgetting to introduce who's saying a quotation. And quite frankly, anything that I'm about to tell you could work with a quote, a summary, or a paraphrase, but the rules I'm about to tell you mostly apply to using quotes. And so one of the biggest mistakes you can do in college writing is to not introduce who's saying the quote. There's kind of this weird thing that happens where you may have just finished a sentence you were writing and then all of a sudden you're using a quote, and it's really weird for readers to go from your writing to a quoted material. So a reminder that you really need to use this hamburger thing. So I have a new slide. Here's it is a veggie hamburger. I made sure my daughter and I have been doing some walking in around our new house, and we're walking through some farmland, and we walk by this huge cow pasture. And yeah, there are a lot of cows, so we haven't been eating a lot of beef. So being a little sensitive to that, there's a veggie burger there. But there's a top bun, there's the good stuff in the middle, there's the bottom bun. And so I love this as a trope for you to think about when you're using quotations, that you must have a top bun, and that is telling who said it or where it came from. So giving the person's name or telling the name of the source that the information came from. The the burger and all the good stuff, that's a quote, and the ellipsis marks and the block format if you have a longer quote. We've kind of gone over this information in class before, but I thought I'd just do a quick reminder to remind you of things. Brackets and then the in-text citation, of course, is always required. Reminder that ellipsis marks, block format, and brackets are dependent on what you need done with the quote. Those are optional. Block quote means that you have more than 4 lines typed in, so it has to be set up differently. Ellipsis marks and brackets. There's information on the web about how to use those as well. I'll show you a few examples in a few minutes, so you'll see some things. And then I'll expect you to look up the rest because I know you know how to research those words. And then the bottom bun is where you say something about the source. The source never makes a point for you. As the writer, you have to fit the source into the context of your essay. So if you're not doing that and you're just using sources, and you've had comments from me that are talking to you about using sources too much and not really being sure about what you're trying to do with your topic, you're just telling me what other sources have said, then you definitely need to add an analysis or some explanation or some extenuation of the source in your own words after the source, because otherwise we're just seeing that you're using a lot of sources instead of having something to say about the quoted material on your own. And in English 121, you should have learned the difference between using a summary, using a paraphrase, and using a quotation. So if you did not learn that, if you don't remember leaving the class going, wow, we just covered how to use these sources, then make sure you use one of your instructor conferences with me this week or next week to talk about the difference between using those sources, because you should be leaving English 121 and 122 with a better understanding of how to use sources, okay? So here's an example. The last slide of the PowerPoint is an example of the sandwich. Notice in red I have an introduction to the author's first and last name. I'm using the same quote that Viviana used during class this morning, and then the in-text citation is in yellow. Now, I have the author's name because I want the author to be the focus of where these words come from. I could change it to the author, to the title, and then I could change the in-text citation. We've had this conversation in class before we went to remote learning, that if you give the author's name here, you can't repeat it in the in-text citation. So your options for an online source, let me prove to you it was online. This is, see, the quote is down here. They took it from this area. If I scroll to the bottom of the essay, you can see that it's a PDF essay from medium.com. So I know for sure that this is a web source. I don't have pages. There's a date of some kind. Maybe it's a 21-page essay. I don't know. It doesn't matter to me. It is. It's 4 of 21 pages. So I'm not going to use page 4. Page 4 is the printer telling me how many pages. So when it's an online source like this that you find online, you're stuck with the following 3 in-text citations, and I'll put them at the bottom here. I think I can add a note. Let me add a notation at the bottom for us. Yeah, I'll just do a comment. My comment on the side over here for your in-text citation, it should always be author, last name first, title of the article second choice, in italics, which it won't let me do, name of the website. So you can see over here, let me extend this. They've put this little comment in here. These are your three choices for in-text citation. So if I use author here, my second option goes here. If I use article here, I'm going to put author last name here. If I put Cord Jefferson, author of On Kindness, in my introduction, then I'm going to use medium in italics here. So just a little review on that. Let's do a review of some other things. So let me change the introduction just so we can see that option I just showed you. Cord Jefferson, author of On Kindness, mentions something important about being rejected. I'm sorry, I have a space there. Let me get it. When I write a full sentence, this is the most complicated introduction to a source you could ever use. If I use something like this, it's a full sentence I would normally put a period at the end of, but I'm using it to introduce the quote. I'm going to put a colon there. I don't always have to use a comma. So this is showing you, and I actually need a comma here too. I have some errors here that I'm fixing. I'm going to change this in text citation. My cursor will move. There it goes. I'm going to do italics, and I'm going to type the word medium. And I'm going to get rid of that quotation mark. So this should be in italics. Excuse me, it's a little bit slanted. Notice where my period is. A lot of you have been putting two periods, one before where the period normally goes and one after, but notice that it does move to the outside. So just some examples of some things that I've noticed you're doing with your quotes. Let's say this was a block quote. Remember the rule for that. You can still do the same introduction, but remember you're going to get rid of the quotes. You're going to indent the text in 10 spaces so that the quote is all lined up, indented 10 spaces. You can hit your tab button twice or do a I'm forgetting what it's called. I'm not in Word. The indented paragraph by 10 spaces. And then when you're done with the quote, you come back to the regular spacing. You go back with the regular part of the essay, and the only thing that changes is that period moves on to the inside. Okay. And then, you know, if I needed to change the verb, I could change verb tense. Brackets are used for changing things. Either adding a word to make the quote clearer because you've taken it out of context. You're allowed to change tense of verbs. You're allowed to change pronouns to specific names. But notice that you're putting the change inside brackets. If I wanted to get rid of part of a quote at the end, and I wanted to use ellipsis marks, I can do that. Get rid of these words. Say I don't need the last part. So therefore, then I have the 3 dots and then a 4th dot on the outside. Okay, so this is ellipsis marks. This is brackets. The block quote I can't show you because I don't have a long enough quote to do that, but I went through the rules with you. So I'm so glad we got to review this because I know I've been saying a lot to people about introducing quotes. I know I've been highlighting at the end of your quotations where you have more than one period and other stuff. So I'm super glad we got to review this. And then don't forget, if you're not sure about how to use sources or want to review any of this with me during your instructor conferences this week, we can definitely talk about that. So take care, and I'll talk to all of you at your conferences on May 2nd and May 9th. See you later.